Thank you for joining me today for another episode of the Healthy AF podcast. With me is Dr. Nazlie Latefi. She's the co-founder and chief scientific officer at Applied Biological Laboratories and holds a PhD in molecular biology and neuroscience. Overachiever, a little bit, maybe. And you lead a team of researchers investigating the cause of the cold, right? The common cold. That's the big medical search for the last century, I think, is the cure for the common cold. So you're going after it. That's awesome. Wow. Thank you for joining me. We met at the Nashville's Alternative Health Summit back in June, hosted by the Meat Mafia, and we got to talk a little bit. But I'm looking forward to kind of unpacking that. And everything you shared there was really interesting. You had a couple mic drops through that through your presentation as well that I can't wait to share. But thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much, Zane. It was so great meeting you at the Alt Health Summit, and everyone there is just so amazing. Looking so forward to getting there next year as well. I guess it's coming around the bend. It's going to be sooner than we think. But yes, exactly right about the common cold and my background and how I pivoted from neuroscience to the common cold. It's the holy grail of medicine. And the common cold, the rhinovirus, which it's caused by many different viruses, but most often the rhinovirus. And rhinovirus only affects humans, and it's one of the oldest diseases known to man. So, it's like, I think Hippocrates wrote about it and stuff. Wow. So it's the holy grail of medicine, and there's no cure as of yet. And the link with neuroscience is that adhesion molecules, so they're like signaling molecules on the surface of cells, transmit nerve signals, but they also are used as attachment factors for viruses. So that's the connection there.
I see. So that's what led you to start looking for this, was your kind of understanding of how that works on the cell, I would imagine. But yeah, it's quite a combination, molecular biology and neuroscience. I mean, that's you were doing a lot of work. But this, like you said, it's the holy grail. If you have something, you have a product, which I didn't mention yet, but that your company produces, called Biovanta, that has been proven, I guess, peer-reviewed studies showing it's dramatically changes or reduces the symptoms of cold, correct?
Yeah. So we really get down to the root cause, because as you mentioned, I am a very geeky person, and
I didn't say that. I did not say you were geeky. I said you were you were, which is a compliment.
Okay.
But okay.
No, thank you. Right. I just, maybe you didn't say it, but my husband and my son make fun of me enough that
okay, gotcha.
It's fine. I wear it with a badge of honor. But I really look into things deeply, and I'm very curious, and I just drill down. I'm like, okay, why are people getting colds all the time? What's happening that the virus are entering our bodies? And once you drill down on stuff, it's really surprising what you discover, even if you think that like everything's about the topic has been discovered before. You'll really be surprised. And I came across some studies during my PhD work on the adhesion molecules and how the viruses bind, and that really intrigued me because no one was looking at things from this perspective, especially with regard to respiratory viruses. And then as I learned more and more, I just realized that what we have on the market really doesn't address the problem at all. So, it was a great opportunity to help people and bring about change in the health space. And it's been really great and exciting. And I can't wait to see Biovanta keep growing, because it's such a unique product that really gets to the root cause.
That's awesome. Yeah, we're going to get into why that is. But it's what you mentioned, which was part of what had a lot of people's jaws dropped at the Alt Health Summit, was that how ineffective and outdated most of our over-the-counter medications are for addressing cold and flu symptoms. I think.
Yeah.
Would you? Yeah.
Yeah. And I think Brett did the math. And I was saying how most of these things have been on the market since the 1950s. And Brett did the math, and it's been 70 years. That's like a really long time,
Yeah.
for something to be on the market that doesn't work. And,
Right.
you know,
Safe and effective is a
yeah,
quotes, right? Yeah.
exactly. So, I mean, like how effective, right?
Right.
How safe, you know? These are just blanket terms, I think we have so much knowledge now about science and health that we can start getting more specific. Like, does it actually work? Do I really need to take it? What is it doing? We should be asking and answering all these questions in a transparent way.
Right. Well, we just saw just a couple of months ago was that Sudafed was shown to be completely ineffective, and that's like one of the biggest sellers in the grocery store shelves, right? I mean, in the drugstores, Sudafed. I mean, that was like the go-to for decades, and a lot of people probably still don't know, but it was just shown to be ineffective. I think was it September or something like that?
Yeah, actually October, beginning of October. But yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we're close enough. Yeah, and there was a whole FDA hearing that was public on YouTube, and I watched it. They were doing cleaning my office here, and I'm really sensitive to chemicals because I don't use any. So
Gotcha.
that's why I sneezed. Sorry. But anyway, yeah. So Sudafed, yeah. So there was a whole FDA hearing. It was on YouTube. It was public. I watched it. It went on for I think like 3 days. And what I really got out of it was, I mean, they had like a panel of all these experts, medical doctors, scientists, pharmacists. It was really extensive. And, one thing I really got out of it is that, the FDA really wants people to have options. And so there were a lot of people saying, well, patients are suffering, they're having these symptoms, and we need to offer them something, right? So to me, it's like, okay, that kind of explains why this has been in the market so long. Like, maybe no one has come up with something better to show that it works better. The science is not there. I don't know. But I mean, that's a really, good reason that you want people to have relief. But then they went on, to talk about the evidence around it. And it's very clear that, to anyone that there's really no evidence to support phenylephrine. And, because of all the research that we have done over the last 10 years with Biovanta and our company, we really think that it's the first on the list of the OTC medicines that's going to need to be taken off the shelf. I mean, there are other ingredients as well, which we think should be taken off the shelf because there's no evidence.
Really?
Yeah, I can go into them if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. Please.
Yeah, so there's guaifenesin, which is most commonly found in Mucinex. And it's labeled a mucolytic or an expectorant. I think it's the only one that is approved by the FDA for that purpose. It's been studied in clinical trials, several of them, and it's been found not to work, over like a day or two, effectively to thin mucus. So what that means is that it might thin your mucus initially, but I don't even think that's even proven. But definitely, like over a day, it's not going to really do anything. And that's, what you really want to do is shorten the duration of your illness, right? And so what's the point of taking something that's not going to do that? And furthermore, the mechanism behind it is not known. Your mucus is a protective substance. So what is it doing to it? It could potentially be, lowering your defenses and making your illness last longer. Also, it's actually a muscle relaxant. Yeah, it's used off-label as a
Wow.
muscle relaxant. So, I don't think it's the best
No, that's
option.
not. I don't think most people know that.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
Yeah.
What else stands out as being kind of maybe
Well,
shady?
so all of the OTC ingredients, all the over-the-counter drug ingredients,
Mhm.
for the products that have been, that are household names, but they've been on the market since the 1950s, they all work to, on your nerve pathways, and they kill your nerve endings and basically numb your pain. So you think that they're doing something, but they're
Mm.
not. They're actually killing your cells. And, on our website, we have microscope images because we tested in our laboratories a whole wide array of different ingredients and different products in lozenges and throat sprays, and we applied them to respiratory tissue that we grew in the lab from people's biopsies that were undergoing, like, surgery for different nasal issues. And we found that these products actually kill the cells, and those cells are the same as the ones in your throat. So yeah, it's toxic. These
Wow.
toxic.
So the things that like numb the throat or would go, are we talking about what about standard painkillers like Tylenol or, like basically acetaminophen or ibuprofen? Would those have a similar effect?
Yeah, that's a little bit different. But I'm talking about right now, stuff
Cold,
that
for
you
instance.
actually apply to your
Okay.
throat and nose. But it's good that you brought up acetaminophen, because I have a whole different set of issues
Oh,
to bring up
really?
that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So acetaminophen is for pain,
Hmm.
obviously, and fever. So is ibuprofen, and so is aspirin. What's the difference? Acetaminophen, ibuprofen, and aspirin will also reduce inflammation. Aspirin is better than ibuprofen because it's an irreversible inhibitor of these inflammatory enzymes, and also it's natural. Aspirin and the natural form of it, which is methyl salicylate, is found in many foods. You can get it from broccoli, raspberries, mint. It's widespread, and it's a natural antiviral component of plants.
Hmm.
And aspirin also has antiviral effects. But acetaminophen doesn't have any anti-inflammatory effects at all. And not only that, it will make your cold worse because it depletes glutathione,
Hmm.
which, as you know, is a major antioxidant and very important for longevity, and your immune
Correct.
system.
And mitochondrial function and yeah,
Yeah.
is that how it affects the liver? Is that why
Yeah.
it's so bad for the acetaminophen is so bad for the liver? Okay.
Yeah. Basically, I
Okay.
shouldn't take Tylenol for anything, like, ever.
Gotcha. Wow. Yeah. And people are just pound that stuff during this time of
Yeah.
year, especially
Yeah.
between stress and studying or, colds and flus and headache. I mean, it's kind of, it's almost like I see people pop it like candy almost. I mean, they'll think as soon as it wears off, they got another one or they're alternating between that and
Yeah. I mean,
some
if
sort
you
of
have, yeah,
painkiller. Yeah.
if you have to take something, I would take aspirin and, you know, um, enteric coated aspirin, so it won't hurt your stomach. And,
All right.
it's probably the best for your microbiome too, because ibuprofen is better than Tylenol, but ibuprofen is gonna disrupt your microbiome. So
Oh yeah, it can eat a hole in your stomach, can it? I mean, if you're taking too many of them, it can literally put a hole in your stomach. But I mean, it disrupts the lining of the gut so badly you can get some bleeding. I believe.
yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Um, yeah, that's for cold for sinus problems. I knew people with allergies all the time. They're popping 4 or 5 of those at a time, and just to reduce swelling. And it's temporary, so they're taking so many. Their gut has got to be disrupted by that kind of frequency and that kind of volume of it. Uh,
Mhm.
So you're saying aspirin is actually the good old fashioned aspirin that we've tried to replace is basically the best solution for pain or inflammation.
Yes, yes. And but we found in our studies, and we actually published a peer-reviewed research study on it, which you can also find on our website, that it's really dependent on the dose. So the lower, we use a specific lower dose, a very low dose that works well. And one of our products now has aspirin in it, in a tablet form, and it's the regular strength. So it's the lower dose. It's not the extra strength or anything. And it's we have a clinical trial that we're working on publishing right now that we're writing up, and it works. It's proven to reduce symptoms like dramatically by the second day, the
Wow.
middle of the second day. So like not like basically by like 36 hours, which is like less than 2 days.
Yeah.
It's a dramatic reduction in symptoms.
Wow. So both the symptoms and then you said it's an antiviral, so I assume it have some impact on the virus itself.
Yes, yes, exactly. And for all those reasons, we really think aspirin would be the best choice.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good old fashioned aspirin.
Yeah.
That's great. That's good to know. Now, let's talk about. I think a lot of people throw the word around immune system or immunity, and that's been a big term over the last few years for obvious reasons. Everybody doing things to help their immunity and chasing this supplement or that supplement to protect themselves. So let's unpack the immune system a little bit for people to understand, kind of, because there's two parts to the immune system, correct?
Yeah, exactly. So, a lot of people talk about strengthening your immune system and whatnot. And really what they're talking about is not, I mean, if you think about like the immune system, what comes to mind? You think, okay, vaccines, antibodies, right?
Right.
So you take vaccines, they go into your blood, they stimulate antibodies. Antibodies are in your blood, and they're made to directly bind to specific viruses or bacteria or specific type of intruder, which is in the vaccine. And then it takes you a few days to a week or so to build up the specific antibodies that you need. But the main thing is that they're in your blood. So when you talk about strengthening your immune system, there's really not much you can do in that respect in terms of like making your body make more antibodies. The only thing that can do that we know so far is vaccines are actually getting sick. But there's another part of your immune system that's called your barrier immunity or your innate immune system. And that's different from the antibody part of your immune system. And the innate or barrier system is your gut lining, the lining of your nose and throat. They're very similar. And those don't involve antibodies per se. I mean, they could. You want to get really technical, but they're not the antibodies are not the main player in that area. It's really like your barrier, the barrier between you and your internal body and the outside world. And that's like your gut lining and your respiratory lining. And it really is like a barrier. So you need to keep that healthy. And, when people say strengthen your immune system, that is the part of your immune system that you really have more control over with lifestyle factors, diet, and all those things. And that's exactly what Biovanta addresses. So Biovanta has a unique formula that we honed over 10 years with a mix of the most powerful molecules of your barrier or innate immunity, lysozyme and lactoferrin. And then it also has aloe, which is a potent natural anti-inflammatory molecule, and then also aspirin like molecules, such as methyl salicylate, which is found in plants. So
Gotcha.
Yeah, so it's
Okay.
like your innate, your barrier, which is the lysozyme and lactoferrin. Those are natural immune barrier molecules. So it's, I mean, most people really haven't heard of barrier or innate immunity. Really, mostly they've heard of antibodies and stuff, but antibodies
Right.
take a week or so to kick in. So that's why you can be vaccinated and still get sick.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So the innate barrier is like, I guess I would think sinuses, throat, gut, as you mentioned, which makes sense when people with their diet, they have develop the what's called leaky gut. But basically, they've something that weakens the 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 barrier, the strength of the gut lining
Mm-hmm.
to allow items, whatever, little microscopic things to leak through and get into the body. Then you have the autoimmune reaction to things that you shouldn't normally be reactive to. I'm guessing. So is that basically so those kind of barriers, like from the gut all the way to the nose and throat, would keep these viruses out, so they can actually pass through us without infecting us.
Yes, that's exactly true. And
Okay.
so there's an analogous, form of leaky gut in your nose, and that would be allergies, right?
Mm.
So because leaky gut is essentially, it's like allergens that are triggering in your gut. They're getting through the barrier. So
Hmm.
when you have a leaky gut, a disruption in your microbiome, like little food particles get through, and then they start, of course, like they're foreign because they're not, you know, fully digested or, anything yet. And so
Right.
they're passing through, and then they get seen by antibodies, and, your body mounts a response, and that's kind of like an autoimmune response. You get sick. Similar, can happen in your nose, in your sinuses, when, it's your barrier is not intact because maybe you take too many steroids for sinus issues in the past, or, you have a lot of, air pollution that you're, surrounded by, and it's making you more sensitive. Well, for whatever reason, your barrier and your sinuses are getting leaky, then you're going to be primed for an overactive immune response. And it's essentially
Mm.
like, leaky gut. So these things are all aspects of your innate or barrier immunity, which are just as important, if not more, than your adaptive immune system, the one that makes the antibodies.
I see. So is there a way to improve the barrier immunity in the sinuses and the throat, or is
Yeah,
that
well, the main molecules there are lysozyme and lactoferrin. So,
okay?
um, I don't, that's why we put them in Biovanta. I think,
Right.
I don't know if it's known how to directly increase those molecules naturally, but any sort of good lifestyle choice that you make, like sleep, exercise, healthy diet, all
Hmm.
of these things are going to help them be, at the most optimal levels. Also, it's really important resolvins. These are molecules that so when you have inflammation, that's when your body senses a foreign particle or a foreign, pathogen of some. Also, there's a way of resolving the inflammation. So you have resolvins, and a way to increase those, aspirin is one way, which is really interesting, and also omega-3. So,
Oh,
well,
so an anti-inflammatory fat, essentially, or yeah,
yes, yes, and definitely avoid omega-6, which is inflammatory.
which is almost impossible, right? That's your yeah, right. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah, right. I know.
in the reality, that's a whole rabbit hole we could go down. But I mean, yeah. So basically, I mean, if you think about your diet, let's just say diet from a diet perspective, you got to be making your own food, one, and avoiding processed food. I think that's a pretty simple one. But that's one of the only ways to avoid omega-6 is to prepare your own food, because anything you buy in the grocery store aisles is going to be full of an omega-6 oil, right? And we
Yeah,
probably have an abundance of those already, causing, because they're inflammatory, right? The omega-6s are inflammatory, and we have that imbalance of omega-3. So with diet, try to include, well, a little fish here and there, I would assume, to get the omega-3 or supplement it, and eat clean enough that you're eliminating most processed foods, especially the ones that have those oils. And then you mentioned sleep before, which is obviously a good anti-inflammatory. So you're talking about reducing what would be considered like chronic inflammation, I mean, where something just stays inflamed because of constant barrage of environmental, I don't know, assault from, like you said, food, sleep, something in the air. Like you mentioned, you don't use the chemicals at home. I would assume those would be somewhat inflammatory to your innate immune system.
I mean, they would irritate, which I guess like
Okay.
that's kind of inflammation. Like they would irritate your well, my nasal line. I think that this is just like something I have a feeling about, but I think that if I really looked into it, there probably would be science. You just haven't had a chance to. But I think you get like habituated to things. So, for like 15 years, really used major harsh cleaning agents in my house. I mean, I'm very sanitary. I'm a scientist, like obviously, but I use like, the cleaning ingredient. Like I use a lot of
Mhm.
seventh generation and then those type of, try to not to use like harsh chemicals. But whenever I go into an area where I'm around it, I just get really sensitive, you know? Same
Sure.
thing with like beauty products, shampoos, that have like harsh fragrances. I
Hmm.
never used to be, super sensitive to it, but once I started eliminating everything, now like I'm super sensitive. So I think you get habituated. And I think people have similar, experience around food, right? Like
True.
if you don't eat junk food for a very long time, then you eat it and it doesn't taste good to you anymore.
Yeah, and you get that bloat. You just notice, oh, wait a minute, why is this just sitting in my stomach and not moving? Yeah, whenever I eat at a restaurant, it's kind of like often it's that it don't feel good for a day or so. It's just I get it. It's so I think, and a lot of other people don't know what I'm talking about, or like you said, we get habituated, we get used to feeling that, or our bodies don't respond as well. But yeah, I think once you eliminate an inflammatory or some sort of toxin,
Hmm.
um, when you do sense it, your body's going to react more so as a you said, as a foreign body. So so Biovanta basically has those you mentioned. Okay, I can't say them correctly, but lactoferrin, right? And the other one was
Lysozyme.
um, lysozyme. So those are something you mentioned that we can improve with a healthy lifestyle. So that means our body is generating these, or is there an outside source for them? I mean,
Yeah. So, yeah, our bodies are generating them. All plants have lysozyme as a major antiviral defense.
okay.
Actually, it's the most well-studied aspect of honey,
Mm,
which gives honey its antimicrobial power. And, we formulated it just right, that it's, effective, right, and very powerful when it needs to be. And also, they work together, lysozyme and lactoferrin. But yes, our bodies generate it, and it's one of the most powerful immune molecules that we know about. And we get our lactoferrin and lysozyme from food sources because they're very abundant in the natural world. So we get them from natural food sources, and we know what the sources are, as much as we can, organic, and
okay.
traceable ingredients for
So
sure.
you're saying mostly plants, or other than honey?
We get our no, we don't get our lysozyme and lactoferrin from plants. We get them from egg and milk sources.
Hmm.
Because you would just need like so much honey
Oh,
that
well, yeah, that
it
makes
wouldn't be,
sense.
it wouldn't be environmentally, you know, sound, and it would be expensive too. So yeah,
Okay.
you would just be wasting so much honey, But that's another thing. Like, honey, people take honey to get over a cold, but you would just need to take so much of it. So we isolated the lysozyme, plus you're not getting all the sugar that you're going to get with honey. It's
Right.
honey.
So you've concentrated the actual. beneficial part. And oh, gotcha. Okay, great, great. So, the source for you is is you said milk products or dairy products. So I'm guessing some sort of unpasteurized. Would these be like you're? I'm just curious. Just being
Oh yeah, sure.
kind of geeky yourself, but it's like a colostrum type thing, or is this a?
Yes.
Okay, all
Yes,
right,
yes. It's from colostrum. It's also major component of whey protein.
okay. Well,
Yeah, and of course, whey protein is really important for longevity and building muscle. So,
right.
it's a repair, mol
Oh yeah, repair stimulator. Yeah, I just didn't realize it had that some sort of antiviral or something that was so beneficial to our immune system in it. That's interesting, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that it's probably like, it also has repair. It's antiviral, but it also probably stimulates repair pathways too, which
Gotcha,
is part of how the immune system is effective.
gotcha, gotcha. All right. Wow, that was quite a science lesson there. I mean, this is you've really unpacked a lot here because the things that we've been chasing to boost our immune system probably are much less effective than just doing this, really living a good, clean, like having a healthy diet, you said, sleep, healthy movement, things that help our bodies adjust to stress. So, hormesis type exercise, that kind of thing. But short-term inflammation that we can recover from that makes us stronger rather than continuing to expose ourselves to things that create chronic inflammation. I guess that's the
Yeah.
lifestyle choice there.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I would really sum it up by saying that you want to strengthen your repair pathways. Whatever helps your body rebuild,
Mm,
like exercise does that, whey protein, nutrition. Um, you want to think about, building because that's how you repair.
right.
So
So
yeah,
omega threes, like you mentioned, the omega threes would also help with inflammation repair.
yeah,
Those are
yeah,
known to help with even muscular repair after a workout. The omega threes are vital for that as well. So,
exactly.
uh,
Oh, and then in terms of like chronic inflammation, yes. So obviously we have an epidemic of chronic inflammation because
yes,
like for example, obesity, right? It's overweight, too many fat cells, but the fat cells stay there because you're overweight for a long time, and so the threat that your body is sensing or whatever is not going away, so it becomes like a chronic situation. Inflammation is supposed to resolve itself,
mm,
so it's supposed to be able to repair. It's a ebb
so it'd be
and
a cycle, right?
yeah,
Right.
kind of process. So when you have chronic inflammation somewhere in your body, it's really going to affect the ebb and flow of any other sort of inflammation. So inflammation is a natural response to a viral infection. So when you get a viral infection, the whole ebb and flow system is out of whack because you have that other chronic situation going on. So body isn't able to repair itself as efficiently.
Okay, so that's where you see. Well, we saw during the last few years where we had an abundance of people with diabetes or who were overweight seemed to be more susceptible to the coronavirus versus people who were fairly fit. I mean, it was kind of like there were many of the people who were hospitalized were shown to have some sort of symptom of metabolic disease, whether it's high blood pressure or heart disease or obesity was a big one. And so that makes sense that their immune system was compromised just from the constant or the chronic inflammation of their metabolic disease. Is that
Yeah,
fair
exactly
assessment?
right.
Okay.
Exactly right. Yeah, exactly right. And because of, and they, yeah, and a lot of people get long COVID too.
Mm,
I'm not really up on the latest research on like who is more susceptible to getting long COVID, but
right.
basically, yeah, definitely people had higher rates of mortality with COVID-19, that had certain pre-existing conditions like diabetes, obesity, cardiac issues, because they are dealing with the chronic inflammation. And also on the other side of it, a lot of people, could have COVID and they would never develop symptoms. So
True.
that's an example.
Or symptom very short, a couple days of allergies. They were very minor symptoms. Yeah, there are a lot of people, myself included, who had I didn't realize they'd had it till weeks later that some tests showed I had antibodies, and I'm like, I don't know, when did I had to think back when I had it, and it was just a few days of allergy symptoms was the only thing I could point to after coming back out of the country after flying, and I'm like, that must have been it, and I assumed I just had a bad cold or some kind of allergy response, but I heard that a lot where they had the antibodies, but they didn't have the illness, they didn't have this drawn out illness, so that's interesting. So that would that now, if it had just passed through, so going back to what you mentioned with the innate immune system, if a virus just passes through our throat and gut, and our innate immune system protects us, would we still develop the antibodies when it's passing through, or would it have to actually enter? It would have to actually enter our bodies and get through the innate immune system before our barrier, before our antibodies would be formed. Is that true?
I think if you had the infection, most likely you will produce the antibodies. It's
right.
You feeling the symptoms is really more a question of the inflammation, because your symptoms are inflammation. So it's more like your inflammatory response. So like you had the infection and, like it passed through, but you didn't have that much major symptoms, right?
Right.
Otherwise you wouldn't have to think so hard about when you had it, right? You'd be like, oh my God, yeah, of course I had it, like, yeah, I had COVID, oh, hello, duh, So you're probably, the virus passed through, but your body was able to repair itself fast enough that you didn't have the major inflammation, the major symptoms,
Gotcha. Okay.
So whatever you're doing it right. Your repair.
Well, I think it was just maybe I was lucky, but it was I was thankful. Let me tell you that I was thankful compared to what I saw. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. You actually have given us, my listeners, a promo code to help give them an opportunity to try out your product. It's called Healthy AF 15. Gives them a 15% off their first order, Biovanta, and that's like it sounds, Healthy AF 15. So that will be in the show notes. Now, you guys, what's the best way to find you guys? Best way to find more information? You mentioned the website has a lot of information.
Yeah, biovanta.com. We have more information about the science and the inflammation and the pathways and everything basically that we talked about. And you can buy it there. We're also in CVS, Walgreens, Publix.
Awesome.
Yeah, nationwide and on Amazon.
Yes, I remember. I did see it on Amazon. That's right. I did see it on Amazon. That's great. You guys have got great distribution.
Thank you.
So I think you guys have an Instagram. Is it Biovanta OTC on Instagram and Facebook? Biovanta OTC as well. So I'll put those in the show notes. But thank you so much. And I know we were talking before about some of these biohacking and conferences coming up. You sent me a couple, which I appreciate. That is such a, I think now, I mean, even younger people, you wouldn't normally think 20 and 30-year-olds thinking about longevity and immunity so much. They're so bulletproof, but I hear more and more about even, it's usually someone in their 40s, 50s, they start feeling the effects of age, and it's like, oh, I got to protect my immune system. I got to get, how do I affect this? But I've seen younger adults getting more interested in these, and just the topic of longevity in general and protecting the immune system. Again, with everything we've been through over the last 3 years, it makes sense. So these longevity conferences are like, I think they're taking off. They're getting really popular and really centered around all the things you've mentioned, which is diet, exercise, sleep, and just taking care of your lifestyle on the front end, reducing chronic inflammation, and that's using our built-in immune system. And your product runs right along with that, with with the ingredients you've included in it. So that's awesome. Again, thank you, Nazlie, for joining me and sharing and taking time out of your day. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Zane. I really, really, really enjoyed this. And hopefully I could be helpful to your listeners.